So we've got a Troy Bilt Squall 208E here. Customer brought in, said that he just bought it last year, will not start. Behind that, we've got a Remington. It's an RM 2140, I believe. We just put a carburetor on it last year. It also will not start. Now, it's a very common issue on these. These are powermore engines. They rate them anywhere from 123 cc's to 208 cc's, depending on what model and what thing it is. But this is a Craftsman down here. Same powermore engine, same design. Basically exactly the same thing, just different ratings, different names slapped on them, a little bit different design. Some of them have covers and stuff over, you know, to keep everything out. The other ones don't. They've just got slots in them to where you could put those things there if you wanted to, but they actually don't have the bolt holes for you to screw anything up into. So we're going to figure out why these have failed after, you know, a short period of time, and I'll give you a little bit of advice on, you know, what you can do to prevent that from happening. So the first thing to do on these, on the ones that have a cover, is go ahead and take the 3 bolts out that hold the cover on. So there's one here, one up underneath this side, and one on this side. It's kind of easy if you just kind of flip them up on their face. Get you a little better view. So again, very common issue. It's something that we see, I don't know, numerous times a day, I can tell you that, whenever we're here. We also see the fuel tanks on these go bad a lot, to where they're people will rest the fuel tank on it and it'll break the plastic down below here where they're held up into. Right here, there's only one bolt holding on the fuel tank. Now a lot of times those will come in broken because they can't support all the weight that someone puts on them when they're actually pushing on the fuel tank with the fuel in it. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop the bowl of the carburetor off real quick and see what the inside of the carburetor looks like before we go any further. And then we'll kind of go from there. Again, this thing was brand new a year ago, and despite when a lot of these people tell me this one actually looks like it's only a year old. So it doesn't smell too bad in there. I'm seeing some gelling going pretty good around the outside. That's for sure. That happens pretty often. And I'm not really seeing anything in the main jet either. The main jet goes straight up through the bottom here, and that's what feeds the whole unit of your fuel. So if that jet is clogged in there, your unit won't get any fuel whatsoever, and that'll cause it not to start. But I'm not seeing that in this case. Everything there is looking in good shape. So I don't think that's what's going on. I think we just got a little bit of gel. It almost looks like, oh, look at that. That's metal shavings right there in the bottom. So that's in the bottom of that carburetor. That was a brand new carburetor last year. I've kind of went over this with a few other things. We've got a couple metal shavings right there. Now what's probably happened is that's gotten engulfed up through there, and that's caused this unit not to start. Okay, let's get a little bit closer. Now on this one, it smells like we may have some bad fuel. That other one didn't smell bad at all. You can usually smell them. You usually smell them from a mile away when you got some bad fuel in them. Now, honestly, that doesn't look too bad on the inside. I don't really see anything, any kind of gum or varnish or anything causing it not to start. It looks in pretty good shape. Now there is some little gritty stuff in there. Not sure exactly where that came from or what it is. I know that it's not metal shavings because we're the ones that put this carb in. So we had the quality control on it to begin with to know that that's not the case. Now the fuel doesn't smell the best. So I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and drain this real quick. Make sure that that main jet is all cleaned out while we're here, just in case there was anything in it. Oh yeah, it definitely feels like there's something up in that jet for sure. Now I will, if I need to, pull this out. I'm just going to show you that sometimes it's nice and easy to do this. If you're in the field, you can just pull the bowl off, push it up through, and either blow it out or anything like that. Get you right back up and going. Wow. I don't know who that is there, but don't know if that's the same person calling or not. Not really looking at it or worried about it at this moment. Right. Okay. Yeah, that fuel definitely don't smell real hot. That's probably what he's got going on. Oh, and looky there. So I took the pin out and my needle is stuck in there. So the needle's not actually allowing enough fuel in this thing to get it up and going. It's stuck on the inside. It's stuck there in the seat because of the ethanol buildup. Let me pull that out so you can see it real quick. So here's what we got going on. See all that ethanol buildup right around the needle there? Now that happens just from it sitting with bad fuel in it. It doesn't take hardly any time, and it gets all along those ridges and it just sits up in there. So your carburetor doesn't give your unit at that point any fuel. Pretty poorly. Now it could still have something up in there. I'm not even going to worry about any of that. I'm just going to go ahead and replace this carburetor at this point. I've got them sitting on the shelf. Nice, quick and easy way to do it. Now, just the 2 bolts come off the front, the 2 nuts. Then you've got your adapter here that seals to your air cleaner cover. And then everything just kind of pulls out towards you, and you can get the spring and your governor linkage straight up and off. Now everything's free. So the gasket's looking pretty good shape, but we are going to put some new ones on there just to make sure we're in good shape. And we are going to go ahead and drain this fuel to make sure it's good. Now it didn't look bad, but I don't know where this fuel came from. Since I don't know, I'm going to switch it out. And again, this carburetor could go ahead, we could put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, we could go ahead and try to clean it up, but you're not guaranteed that that's going to work at this point. So with as cheap as the carburetors are from a shop perspective, it is cheaper for me to replace this for this customer than it is for us to clean it. So that's what we're going to do. Obviously he wants it done, but this is an issue where, you know, I think that the company should definitely be held liable, but the thing is, no matter where you bring it to, even if you bring it to a warranty center, they're not going to cover that. They're not going to admit that there were metal shavings in the bottom, and this is something that, you know, they should have seen, they should take care of. There is a screen on the inlet here, on the inside underneath. I can kind of show you that, but that doesn't help if doesn't help at all if the stuff's already in the carburetor. If it's already in the carburetor, there's nothing you can do. So straight down through there, there is a screen. Now that's why on these they don't have a filter coming from the fuel tank, but I always like to add one anyway, because that little screen, it's not doing a whole lot under there. That's not going to keep a whole lot out anyway. So we're going to go ahead and add a screen here. We're going to flush this fuel tank. Going to add a filter. Flush the fuel tank real quick, and we're going to throw a new carb on there. So we've got a 951-10956 carb here. We're going to go ahead and check the inside, make sure that there's no metal shavings or anything like that in it. Because again, that is kind of a common occurrence, whether it's OEM or aftermarket. You know, blow it out, make sure everything's in good shape, both in the bowl and everywhere else. This one doesn't look bad. I don't see anything in it whatsoever, but you always want to make sure that that's the case. So again, we like to run our nice sized jet down through here, or nice sized drill bit. Now this one's a little bit tight. That will happen sometimes with the aftermarkets. They seem to be just a hair small. I don't know if it's the EPA requirements or what. We like to make them the right size for these 208s. Make sure they run good and don't surge. Get all those. If there was any brass shavings, that'll take everything out. Now we're going to want to set this float. On these, they seem to start at about level and spring load. There's just not enough tension on that a lot of times to keep them secured. So all we're going to do is we're going to hold this up, and we're just going to slightly bend this tab down just a little bit, not too far. That's probably a tiny bit too far. It's easier if you have it out of there and then you don't damage things, but normally I don't make that kind of mistake. Normally it's pretty easy, but just barely hit it there. So you want it to start about right there where it starts sealing. So you've got it coming down, it's starting to seal right about there, just below being level. That way when it's level, it's 100% sealed. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the bolt back in. Now that carburetor's all set and ready to put on there. We are gonna go ahead and put our fuel filter here on right after we blow out the tank. Now these tanks are super easy because they go right down to the bottom. It doesn't take much to get every last drop out of them. Blow back through. Top and the bottom a couple times, and you're 100% clean, so no big deal whatsoever there. All right, so now that we have an actual filter here, that'll be good for the unit. And then what I like to do is on that end that was on the carburetor, I like to just take a tiny bit off with my cutters, just to start at a fresh spot, different than what it originally started at. Now these gaskets don't look bad, but I'm gonna go ahead and double them up. That just makes sure that we're not gonna have any leaks at all of any kind here. Doesn't hurt anything, and then you don't have to scrape all the old gasket material off. For some reason, I always put this back gasket on wrong the first time. Every single time. I do these multiple times every single day too, so these gaskets by themselves, I don't believe they're thick enough to seal anything real well. On some models, this part of the gasket will hit up top, so you'll actually have to trim that, otherwise you will cause an air leak at points in time. I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in. I like to just stretch the spring and get it in there first, and then get our other assembly. All right, now I can put our adapter in. I'm gonna throw my fuel line clamp on. And again, a lot of times, you know, at any kind of shop environment, you're gonna pay more to get that carb rebuilt. The rebuild kit's $40-something if you actually use a kit on it. I mean, I can get a brand new aftermarket carb for that kind of price. And the quality, no matter who's telling it to you, the quality is really not any different. All right, and that just pops right back on. I like to always take just a snip off this too, since we have plenty of room. Just gives you a new spot for it to seal to, as opposed to the same spot it was where it's not going to seal real tight. So let's get my units here back in. All right, so we can put this back on for our choke. Nice and easy. Now sometimes on the aftermarkets, when you get them, that choke won't stay locked in there. If that's the case, you can switch out the choke body to the original one to solve that problem. Sometimes they just won't stay choked, and as soon as you try to start it, it'll pop completely off choke or something like that. So you want to kind of pay mind to that. We're going to go ahead and put this cover back on also, because we've done everything here. We know this thing is good to go as soon as we get all this back together. All right. I don't know why my phone keeps blowing up. It says something about duo security. Well, I don't have security on my house, and I'm at my business, so I'm not sure what that's all about. Probably another spam call like they get to me about 100 times a day. Just put those 3 back in, throw some fuel in it. Let's see what we got on that one. Again, if you're in the field, you don't have to replace the gasket there. You don't have to do that, but I mean, you've already got the thing open. You might as well start fresh with fresh fuel that you know is a very good quality. We use ethanol-free treated fuel, treated with Phaser 3000. We just know that that's a good quality, and the Phaser 3000 helps get that water back through the system should it gather any moisture at any point in time. Let's see here. Now it's a nice fresh carb, not a blip, not a pop, not anything out of it. The thing runs just perfect.